there is no magic button to migrate from CPQ to SEA. So it means that it will be kind of a project. And when we talk about a project, it's important to plan and to assess in order to have a proper vision of the to-be solution.
Hi and welcome to the Digital Trailblazers podcast, a show where we talk with the professionals who have trusted solutions from the Salesforce ecosystem and led their organizations on the path to digital transformation. If you're wondering how to plan a technology implementation, what to pay attention to, which mistakes to avoid, and how to prepare your team for change, you're in the right place. This is the second half of the episode dedicated to Salesforce Revenue Cloud Advanced. And if you haven't listened to the first half, I strongly encourage you to get more context into the conversation. And I'm continuing my interview with Xavier Marette. Let's follow the example that we gave earlier on. I am a business owner with Salesforce CPQ implemented. So right now, what are the options that I have available in front of me?
Okay, so first of all, it's important to mention that the status quo is fine, right? So Salesforce won't move CPQ to the end of life tomorrow. There will be a certain period of time offered to the customers to plan this transition properly. So I would say that as long as you are satisfied with your CPQ, you don't have to panic and start transitioning. On the other hand, we mentioned SEA is a completely new design, both from the front end and the back end perspective. So there is no magic button to migrate from CPQ to SEA. So it means that it will be kind of a project. And when we talk about a project, it's important to plan and to assess in order to have a proper vision of the to-be solution. And at Cloudity, we want to support CPQ customers, both our customers and any customers who implemented CPQ in the past for this journey. This is a complex journey because CPQ has a certain level of complexity. Same applies as well to SEA. So if anyone is eager to get to know more about this migration process, about SEA, we definitely invite them to get in touch with us.
So from what you're saying, I get a feeling that this transition is not just technical, but it can and probably will also involve functional and organizational changes. Is that a correct assumption?
That's a correct assumption, but I would say that it's two different philosophy, the way these CPQs are designed. And we at Cloudity were working in what we call a migration tool that will speed up the migration of copying the product catalog, the pricing catalog from the CPQ taxonomy to the SEA, I would call it data model, expected model. But I believe that most of the CPQ customers will be eager to review their business processes, their product catalog, the way they price the products. It's a unique opportunity to kind of do a reset on the processes, right? So as you mentioned within your questions, it will be both a technical and a functional organization change.
So then when is the right time to start this migration? Are there any signs that I should pay attention to in terms of the timing of this transition?
Good question, Dima, and I believe that also the listeners may have the same questions. And I would say that a good moment or even opportunity is when, for example, you want to implement a new type of product. You want to implement a new pricing policy, right? We have right now the example of customers that move from a purely fully subscription model. So you pay, a yearly fee, and then you get access to the software, to a more usage-based model. Right? So you purchase both a license and some usage credit. And then this is the sign that, okay, so should I continue to implement it in a tool that will sooner or later be end of life, or should I implement it into the solution where most of the, improvement will be implemented, right? So I would say that if you start considering new pricing policy, new business model, that's definitely a good sign that you should consider SEA.
Now let me ask you a question that just last week I got asked by one of the customers who has Salesforce CPQ implemented. So what's the first step that they should consider if they want to move to RCA? What is the rule book, first rule?
Actually, I think I know which customer you are talking about. And from Cloudity perspective, we invest right now in what we call the CPQ migration tool in order to make this journey as smooth as possible, right? Because I think as well that there is kind of a risk that you are, let's say, driving a car. This car is fairly old, but still drive you from point A to point B, right? And now what we say that we have a better car that can transport you through this journey. So there is a risk of changing the car, and we want to reduce this level of risk with our solution. So we first of all start with an application that can scan your CPQ, your as-is CPQ, and from it share with you like a health score. So how good is your CPQ? And also, is it worth considering moving to SEA because of technical limitations, for example?
And just to be on the same page, is this tool that you mentioned, is it a Cloudity specific tool or is it a tool developed by Salesforce itself?
So Salesforce, as of today, is not investing in a migration tool like it used to be, for example, when really old Salesforce customers, were working on Classic. Salesforce proposed the Lightning platform, and Salesforce came with a migration tool to migrate from Classic to Lightning. And here, actually, it's not the case. So that's why with Cloudity, we decided to implement our own tool. And we invite our customers, any CPQ customers, who is wondering how good my CPQ is actually, to free CPQ assessment. And then we can continue this discussion forward according to the result of this CPQ assessment.
And probably one of the questions that anyone listening and interested in the topic may ask is, how long does this migration last? Is it a week-long project? Is it a month or a year-long project?
So Dima, I used to be a consultant, so I will answer to you. It depends. So that's why we need to have this assessment, yeah. So to get a better overview about your current CPQ, but you may, for any CPQ customers, right, let's say that they spent half a year to implement the CPQ, they should consider that we're talking about the same scale of time in order to do the migration. But again, at the end of the day, it will depend whether we are doing like a pure transition or we are rather talking about a transformation.
And right now, can you share any specific example of a customer who has already started this transition, this switch from Salesforce CPQ to RCA?
Yes. So as I mentioned, we have SaaS customers who are using Salesforce CPQ, and due to the new pricing policy, the new business model that they want to implement, they decided to, stop the bleeding with CPQ. So stop investing in a tool that they know will, at some point of the day, be decommissioned. So this customer, they started to make the transition. But yeah, actually here it's not a transition, it will be rather transformations, because the idea of the customer is say, okay, let's start the processes from the scratch.
And how do you exactly support customers, these companies that are ongoing this migration from one system to another? What is your role as Cloudity's business partner and Cloudity's role in this project?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, as Cloudity, we offer SEA readiness assessment, and that will be a free assessment. So any CPQ customers interested to know more about like the CPQ are invited. And we also help them to really identify the answer to the questions, is it worth moving from current CPQ setup to SEA, right? And here, with our tool, we're also happy to share some ROI. So will you be able to quote faster? Are you going to have like cleaner integrations? Are you going to have like better data for the management to measure thanks to this migration?
Is this migration relevant only for enterprises, large enterprise companies, or is it also something important for mid-sized companies?
The answer is quite simple. The answer is no. And why is no? Salesforce SCA, can be leveraged by enterprise company, just like Salesforce platform, is used by different size of companies, SMB, mid-sized company, enterprise companies. But right now we are supporting 8 customers with their SCA implementations. And I would say that half of these companies, they are small size company and half of them, they are mid-sized company, right? Because they are companies that are looking for growth. They are looking for streamlining the processes. So they need like a solid, robust tool to support their growth.
And out of curiosity, I know that we have been already working on migrations from Salesforce CPQ to Salesforce RCA for our customers, but what about companies where Salesforce CPQ was implemented by another partner, another service provider? Is this also something that we can potentially support these companies with when it comes to migrating to Salesforce RCA?
Definitely. So actually, even with our current CPQ customers, it was customers where the CPQ was implemented by another partner. And at some point, the customer decided to go with us. So here, this is the same case, right? So any CPQ customers eager to understand a bit more about their CPQ, eager to understand a bit more about what is Revenue Cloud Advanced, are definitely more than invited to have a chat with us.
Okay, at this moment, let's take a step back from this conversation about the migration from CPQ to RCA and look at it more in terms of long-term changes for revenue operations. So beyond of this end of sales for CPQ, what does this change tell us about the future of revenue operations?
Yeah, so typically, and that was also my observation where we implemented CPQ project, sales operations, order operations, final operations, they used to work in silos. So sales operation is closing a deal and then, they get the commission and they move to the next deal. Nothing bad about this, but then order processing has to do something with the order and to deliver the solution that was purchased by the end customers. And companies understand that there needs to be faster and to have like a more reliable tool on the revenue operations, not only in selling, but also in delivering and in invoicing their customers. Actually, here we didn't talk a lot about SCB, which stands for Revenue Cloud Billing, but you can also automate not only quote to order, but quote to cash within the Salesforce platform. And also, as we discussed, there is a race today about AI, about automating your processes as much as possible. So it's really important that you have like a proper data model in your platform to leverage the power of AI.
It's good that you mentioned the topic of collaboration between different teams throughout the whole sales process and beyond, right? So in your opinion, how can sales and finance leaders leverage Revenue Cloud Advanced to simply manage their revenue lifecycle better?
Yeah, so that's also something that we hear from many customers, and probably some of the listeners will reflect on this as well. Forecasting. So when you look at forecasting at sales, you have different figures compared to what you have on your orders and what you have like in invoice. So companies, they spend a lot of time to get proper forecasting on the revenue. And basically don't know where the truth is lying, right? Is it sales that is right? Is it controlling who is right? So sales and finance leaders benefit from more accurate forecasting and better visibility into the revenue. And we're actually also where the revenue is stuck as well. And then from I'd call it more on the operational perspective, you definitely limit the manual processes. I know a lot of companies have FTEs only to verify that the quote document is correct. They have FTEs to invoice the customers, where these processes could be fully automated. So it's really about optimize your costs as well into your revenue operations. So in short, more accurate forecasting, better efficiency on the operations.
So with this question, we're approaching the end of this episode. Xavi, maybe any last words or comments from you?
Yes, I invite any CPQ customers to get in touch with us, where I know that we didn't cover all questions. So if you have like any specific questions regarding your current CPQ implementations, how you should consider moving to SEA, anyone is welcome to have a chat. Thanks, Dima.
Thank you, Xavier. That's all for today. The next episode is coming soon. If you want to stay up to date, we invite you to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite streaming platform. See you next time.